No, the story is not about both of us. As I say in a disclaimer, this is a work of fiction, and any resemblance to anybody, dead or alive, is purely coincidental. Okay, let me begin by asking him, what gave you the idea for the story?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. So, what happened was actually last year, I'd gone to Germany for a holiday because my elder daughter lives there and my younger daughter lives in Vancouver. And I'd written two books before this, A Tale of Two Friends and A Tale of Two Homes and A Tale of Two Medics. And people kept asking me, when is your third book coming out? And I said, my third book, in my mind I had a title known as A Tale of Two Wives. But unfortunately, I couldn't get a second wife, nor did my first wife leave me. So that book was a non-starter. So what happened is when I went to Germany, I used to call up my younger daughter in Vancouver. She was auditioning for roles in commercials and films and all that. And after some time she got fed up. She said, Dad, get a second life, don't keep calling me up every day. So I said, okay, let's do something else, let's see if I can write a book, another book. And at that time, there was a lot of turmoil going on in US. You know, Democrats, new Republican president, and a lot of stuff was going on. So every day in the news something used to come out about what was happening in the US. So I used to watch that, and I decided, okay, let's see if I can, write something, because even in our class group email chats, if some guy was a Democrat and another one was a Republican and they wrote something, there would be a lot of fireworks in between. But at the end of the day, they were still friends. So I said, let me write a story about two friends, and that's how it came about.
So are the characters in this novel based on real life friends? I mean, the story is a gripping tale of two friends with multiple characters woven in. How did you come across this tale?
Well, so the theme of this book is, I quoted it at the beginning. Ideally, friends made at a young age, when you're a nobody, should remain friends for life when you become a somebody. I mean, that's the theme of the book that goes right through. So if you look at the beginning of the story, there were two young people, and the two main characters are, one is a lawyer who's a Democrat, and a doctor who's a Republican. These two youngsters met at the age of 6. Some of this is fiction, some of this is fact, but these two youngsters met in a school in Uti, known as Lawrence School. And what happens is, as they grow up, they move to other places. But one incident in the school sort of registered in their minds, because in the story, the first chapter is about how one person is wrongly arrested. He's a doctor, and in America at that time, there was a lot of talk about fentanyl being smuggled in. And they wanted to catch people who were smuggling in the fentanyl. So they used to go and arrest people, you see. So this person was wrongly arrested, taken to the torture chamber, sort of waterboarding was done. And he had an aversion to waterboarding because of what happened to him in school at the beginning of his life. I don't know how many of you have been to Uti, but there is a botanical gardens with a pond in the middle. And these two friends, at the age of 6 years old when they first met, they went to that pond which was in the botanical garden, and they said, let's catch some tadpoles. And they put a handkerchief and they were trying to catch the tadpoles. And one of them pulled the handkerchief, the other guy fell into the water. So from that day he got scared about waterboarding and water on his face. But since that day, the reason I brought this Uti up was because now we've got a white fence around that pond. So if you go to Uti and go to botanical gardens and see the pond, you'll realize these two youngsters who fell, one guy fell into the pond, that's when the white thing was built. So the story started from there and moved forward, you know.
Okay. The other thing that I've read the book and I've actually had written a review about it, so I know the whole story. But your courtroom descriptions are quite riveting. Have you had any legal exposure?
Okay, so I haven't had legal exposure, although we've had some legal cases against us, but I'll tell you about that later. So what happened is, since this one doctor, he was caught wrongly and taken to this torture chamber. So when he was there, he decided now he has to get out of there. Fortunately, the what you call now ICE or FBI or whatever, whoever had taken him there, they realized that they had made a mistake because they had gone to the wrong street. He was living on west side, they had gone to the east side and caught him up and brought him there. And he then decided to reach out to his friend who was the lawyer, who was the classmate of his who had got him into the water that day in school. And although they were on different political parties, both ends of the spectrum, and with so much of going on at that time, he reached out to his friend and asked him to come and help him. So his friend took him home, and then they were, presented the case in court. And unfortunately, when they went to court at the beginning, the judge was sort of very biased, and he gave them a tough time and just threw the case out of court. So then they had to appeal again, went to the higher court, and the higher court realized that there is some problem and sent them back to the lower court again. And so this went on, and they got out of it. But then to answer your question, how did this court see? Because that's the crux of the whole thing. So basically, I've been reading a lot of John Grisham books, watching some TV shows where they show court cases. So that's how you get some idea about what's happening in the court. But on a practical note, we did have some building problems in Bombay where we stay, and case had to go up to the Supreme Court. So we did see some practical aspects of the court, but none of that is in this book. This is more about what goes on in fiction, in books and John Grisham and the movies.
Okay, I'll digress a little bit. Now, I'm going to ask you, how do you work on a novel? I mean, do you have a specific writing time? Do you type or use a pen or use a dictaphone? Do you know at the beginning how your story is going to unfold? I mean...
Well, actually this book, I had no clue where the story was going. Because I used to turn on the TV in the morning, see some news of what's happening in America, and then sort of think about writing a chapter. And that's how it went. And you see, all my chapters are very short, 600, 800 words, because, you just write something small. So that's how I got the idea. I didn't know where the story was going to go and how it was moving forward. So this book actually had no plan of where to go. As far as writing, so I used to just think about what to write. Use my iPad, type in the day, go for a walk, come back, make any changes, and that was one chapter over. So it went on like this, and the problem was we had gone to Germany in the first week of May, and we were coming back to India towards the end of June. So I had only a 6-week window and I had to finish the book in 6 weeks. So that's how this went on. So I used an iPad and I typed into that.
It is true. Actually, each of the chapters in the book is hardly a page or two. It's like you want to go to the next chapter to see what's the next scene. So that's how it keeps up the interest. Now, a bit about the ending. There's a kind of twist at the very end of the tale. Do you want to let people know or let them buy the book and read it for themselves?
I'll tell them a little bit of the twist at the end, but there's more to it at the end. So what happens is the story goes on about what's happening basically in the US during the last year, about tariffs, universities being made to pay extra money to get out of difficulties, law firms spending. So each chapter is there. Also Canada becoming the 51st state. So we move into different areas. So finally, there is a group of three people who plan to do something to maybe overthrow the government. So this is a fiction book, right? Set in 2029. So nothing to do with the present. Let me make that clear. So these three people want to do something to get rid of the big man, and they decide, okay, let's do something, and how do we do it? So when I was writing this book, actually I was sitting on the dining table with my daughter in Germany, and she said, "Dad, at the end of the book, you got to have a twist. You got to kill somebody." So we decided, now how do we kill? Who do we kill? Do we kill the president? Do we kill somebody else, or what do we do? So the question came, how do you kill somebody? So then the discussion came that so there's a drink known in South America. It's like a type of tea. It's known as mate, M-A-T-E. And the full form is yerba mate. It's drunk in Brazil, in Argentina, and many places in South America. And so we sort of incorporated the thing about drinking mate, because the previous pope was an Argentinian and he used to drink mate. And what happens is when you go to visit somebody in the South American countries, they give you this mate to drink and they sort of pass it around, And so what we did is I said that the Pope was going to die. He died ultimately of cancer, I think, but he was very sick. And mate is supposed to be a health, it stimulates the immunological system. So he used to drink a lot of mate. And the president of US was going to visit him. So we said, okay, let's poison the mate and see if that when they pass it around something happens. And to do that, we had to get somebody to put some poison in the mate. And there were these, mate is drunk in Syria also. So there were the Syrian spies who were working in the Vatican, and they had to put something like opium and atropine type of belladonna into the drink. And the drink is very bitter. So even when you drink it, you won't realize there's some poison in it. So that was what was used. Idea was to poison the president, but there's a twist, somebody else was poisoned in the story. But this is how no, not telling them that.
Now, now I'd like to throw the floor open so that any of you would like to ask him a question, can be related to the book or anything at all. We'll pass the mic around. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Yes, Salim. Yeah, actually my second book, Salim, which I wrote during around the COVID time and didn't have really a book launch, is a tale of two medics. One doctor practicing ethical medicine and another one doing unethical medicine. So a lot of stories in that book, and unfortunately that book I didn't have it released. I mean, it's there, available, but not many people know about it, Tale of Two Medics. And I thought that was an important book, especially for the younger generation medical students and young doctors, because nowadays many of them being pushed into these big hospitals, they tend to do sort of things where they cut corners. And interestingly, if you talk about this ethical stuff, Dr. Krishnan is running a website known as Second Opinion, where a layman or a patient who goes and sees 2-3 doctors doesn't know which way to go, can upload his papers and all that, and he can get an opinion from some of the consultants sitting in Vellore. But I think medicine at this stage in India is a bit of a dicey situation, unless you get the right person.